should have been putting into production, you end up putting into recovery because you have health needs now. You have health challenges or different challenges that are popping up because you allow your producing to override your becoming.
What if writing a book is not just a way to transform the lives of many people, but also a way to create financial freedom and leave a legacy? Wouldn't you want to find out just how to do that? Well, that's what this show is all about.
Hi, I'm Hennika Watkis, Porter speaker, coach, author of Podcast Power, and the host of the Entrepreneurial You podcast, inviting you to listen to the Entrepreneur Secrets podcast, brought to you by C. Ruth Taylor, best-selling indie author and the Caribbean's most trusted voice on entrepreneurship. Tune in for inspiration, information, and innovation to write and win with books. Get ready to dominate entrepreneurship.
Since this is our first episode for 2022, I thought about taking you on a little motivational trek, but it is still related to my entrepreneurship journey. On December 17, I had the first graduation and book launch of our Design to Win Academy. That's our publishing school for teens. And this was the first graduation where we certified some teenagers as publishing services providers. And at that launch and graduation, we had a young achiever, Mr. Darron Hilaire from Turks and Caicos, who brought a life-transforming keynote address about unconventional paths to success and some things we should avoid on our journey towards success, especially in the season where we are setting New Year's resolutions and we want to achieve so many things in the new year. But be careful that your producing does not outdo your becoming, because then you're going to be in for trouble. And he gave a number of tips which I believe will be helpful for us at the start of the new year for this podcast. Mr. Darron Hilaire Jr. is the head of brand marketing and communications for Flow Turks and Caicos, the leading full-service communications and entertainment provider in the Turks and Caicos Islands. He's been awarded the 2017 to 2018 National Young Achievers Medal by the government of the Turks and Caicos Islands and awarded the 2019 to 2020 Junior Humanitarian of the Year Award by the Turks and Caicos Islands Human Rights Commission. Recently, in 2021, he became the host of a new radio show on RTC 89 called Awakening Possibility, where he is changing the world one conversation at a time. So let's get to that speech. And after his keynote address, I'm going to come back and provide you with a tremendous resource to win on your authorship journey in 2022.
I've been enjoying this entire evening so far and watching all of you blossom at the hands of someone who is also very dear to me. So you guys don't own her. And I think like many of you, just her being who she is has activated me in so many ways, and just watching her grow and blossom in the ways that God has designed her has been a very, very good inspiration for me to have, and just has been causing me to think, quite a bit leading up to this time. Just some of the thoughts that have passed through my mind is what would it have looked like? And I think many of you probably have asked, well, not asking it, but are also living it. Well, what would it have looked like had you grown up next door to an author, and not just an author, but someone who has authored as much as over 20 books, right? What would it have looked like? What would my life have looked like had I had the skills and the training and the access to some of the things that you have had through this program? Where would I have been had I had that? And then also, like, what is purpose if not going back to help to fill some of the gaps that you would have fell in? And I think, Kamika, having been through this process several times and realizing some of the pitfalls of a lot of students in the education system, has accepted the vision that God has put in her heart for young people and for education in a way that many of us or many institutions are not doing it. And I think it is such a wonderful thing that this is something that she has put out into the world and has given shape and form and a platform and used her influence to push and to drive and to bring so many young people along with her for that ride and for that journey, and to honor their stories and their journeys in such a powerful way in this format. So just to say, Kamika, to begin with, just thank you for this opportunity. Graduates, I'm so proud of each and every one of you. I know she is very dear to you. She and I both hold a passion for young people, and the young people that we work with and mentor, we hold, even in many cases, as our own kids. It is such a wonderful thing and such a wonderful miracle just to be able to watch someone grow up in front of you. That's not something that many people get to witness and get to see. And so I share that passion with her and just join her and celebrating with each of you tonight. I don't want to take up too much more of your time, so I'll try to be very brief with my presentation. And what I'd like to talk to you about for a bit this evening is really just some traditional paths to success that I think most people sort of attribute success to, and also some untraditional ways to look at success as a container of sorts for the vision and the skills that you hold and you possess now, having come through this program, and how you cast a vision, how you apply your lives going forward into the near future as you graduate from this program that I believe is just not just a graduation of young people, but it's a birthplace of industries of the future that will definitely become household names. That is something I wholeheartedly believe that this program will achieve in its time, of existence, and as it grows and takes form and shape and becomes even more of a powerhouse in the Caribbean and by extension the rest of the world. One of my personal philosophies and convictions over the last few years has become that anything that the masses or the greater percentage of our local or even our international population is celebrating is something I think we should probably seek to either avoid or abandon in our personal lives. Because what I've found is that in my almost 3 decades of living, is that real success is neither loud or expressive. Sound wisdom is hardly ever boastful or mainstream worthy. And a life well lived is rarely celebrated the way that it should be. Yet I found that so many of us have pledged our allegiance to the opposite of these things, and we're living in an era that values, I believe, entertainment over education, whereby at the very least, teens like yourselves and young adults are of the opinion that if all else fails, if school doesn't work out, then at the very least, they can become a YouTuber. And, because having gone through this program, I know that doesn't have to become your fate, and that your ceiling of ambition is much higher than that. And we're living in a world where also, unfortunately, you could be on the cover of Forbes magazine or Essence or any A-list worthy magazine publication as one of the top entrepreneurs in your industry on one hand. and on the other hand, also be an abusive and an absent father and still be praised as the man of the year or the next one to watch. And sometimes I have to ask myself, watch what? And we live in a time where people have, very heavy appetites for content, but they have very little appetite for character and character formation. And we consume content, at an almost embarrassing rate, sometimes preloading and overloading our minds with hours of video and messaging about other people's lives and other people's ideas and other people's ways of living, and coveting after things that, we don't have, but we believe that, we need to feel good within ourselves. And then the last thing is that I think we live at an hour where we're made to believe that enough is a myth. The order of the day, it seems, is speed. How can we get there faster? How can we get there sooner? How can we get there now? And there is this elusive idea and this message that this kind of lifestyle is sending, that we can somehow bypass time, that we can somehow bypass processes, that we can all achieve success overnight if we sell ourselves enough, if we hustle enough, and if we're this enough, and if we're that enough. And scarily, what I believe is happening is that this kind of thinking is fostering a generation that is living out of fear of not being enough and not doing enough and not having enough, and a generation that simply does not know how to say enough. And one of the things that I'm most afraid of today, for this generation, and when I say this generation, I'm not just talking about young people in particular, but everyone that exists in this dispensation and time, is that we're headed very fast in the wrong direction. And I think one of the things we're seeing, for the first time in history, is a generation that is over-medicated, whether on prescription drugs or harmful drugs, a generation that is over-celebrated thanks to social media, and a generation that is quite simply overworked. And I think this is just about the greatest recipe for disaster. And in this generation, I think what we're witnessing for the first time is a world that has simply gone mad. And there's a survey, some 77% of American employees responded to a recent national survey, that reported that at least one instance of burnout in 2021. More than half of them could cite multiple times where they have simply reached the end. And when I look at the Bible, I don't see where that message, that lifestyle aligns with the design that God had in mind for our days and for our time. Even God himself, after 6 days of working, said, enough. This is good. And it is with this model, this conviction, this image in mind, that I believe we must approach success and approach designing our lives and maximizing our creative potential. Because often when we hear the word, success, it's normally associated with something to attain, like power, something to achieve, goals, or something to have, some form of possession. And I believe that these things, while they're good, they can also be counterproductive to real lasting success that leaves room for what I like to call the forgotten fruits, like joy and peace and wonder and grace and beauty and seasons. And I like to say that, we've traded the forgotten for the forbidden. We have given our personal power away to things that are lesser than what God, has created us and designed us for. And I think to myself sometimes, what if the way we think about success is what is causing more decay in the world and in our souls than it is causing renewal and hope? And what if the way we're approaching success is self-destructive? Would we still hunger for it the way that we do if we come to that realization? But what I want to offer today, even above that, is what if there is a better way? And I'm not going to attempt in any way to define success for you, but I do want to help you to think about what I think success is not, so that you avoid becoming successful in the wrong thing, because I do think we could do that. And there are a lot of people that are becoming successful, but my prayer to God daily is, God, don't allow me to become successful in the wrong thing. And so there are three things I think, we should avoid as we consider success and as we cast our vision for the new year, and just think about ways that we'll realize and utilize the skills that you've garnered in this program and apply yourselves going forward. One of the things I think that you first need to avoid is speed, or better yet, what a lot of culture, a lot of media is talking about as hustle and burnout, right? But I simplify it just by saying speed. One of the principles I believe in tremendously, and this was highlighted by a Jamaican-born author, Malcolm Gladwell, who wrote a book called Outliers. And in this book, he talks about a principle that I subscribe to, called the 10,000-hour rule. And as Gladwell tells it, he says the key to mastering or becoming successful in any field is simply a matter of practicing a specific task that can be accomplished in 20 hours a week for 10,000 hours, or what amounts to 10 years. And it doesn't mean that it'll take that long for you to publish a book, or to bring a product to market, or to achieve anything really. But it does imply that it might take that long to perfect, or at least master a particular skill or a particular thing. And as young people, one of the things I think you have to your advantage is time. And one of the greatest blunders to your success, therefore, I believe, will be your impatience. If you could focus on the skills, if you could focus on the information, the lessons you've been garnering in this program for the next 10 years, and work at them, continue to work at them, in healthy ways, and in the context of your own lives, whatever that looks like for you now, you'd be much closer to achieving mastery by age 25, while many of your friends and your peers are continuously and perpetually just chasing the next new thing. But you, within the next 10 years, if you discipline yourself, if you learn how to focus yourself and slow down around the things that are important to you, slow down around the ways that God has designed you, and really put time and energy and effort into becoming the best version of yourself, you'll be that closer to mastery than the vast majority of your generation. And so my first encouragement to you, as you consider the next year, as you consider the next 12 months, as you consider the next school year, is not to speed up, but it is in fact to slow down. And in a world that celebrates moving at 100 miles per hour, slowing down is what makes you rare, and it is what makes you valuable. The other thing I think that is worth avoiding is what I like to call social media suicide. One of the things we're most familiar with as Caribbean people is a marketplace. It is the place where we go to shop around. It's the place where we go to connect with others, and there's just an array of different personalities we encounter along the way as we gather our stuff and as we get the things that we need. But I think in this generation, we've traded our traditional marketplace settings for modern marketplaces of social media. And instead of shopping for organic experiences and fresh creations, we swipe left and we swipe right to shop for new identities to try on. We are being told every day to be more like this and to do more of this and to add more of that in order to be seen, in order to be noticed, in order to be accepted, in order to be liked. And the measuring stick of success, of our success, is not how we grow from within anymore, but is how we compare to what exists on the outside of us. And in order to become successful, the invitation from social media most of the times is that we have to sacrifice ourselves. And we have thousands of examples of people who have mastered social media by becoming successful at being someone else. But true success, I believe, doesn't ask us to sacrifice ourselves on the altar of social media. We have thousands of people every day who are dying not from guns and not from weapons, but from social media suicide. As young influencers in your own right, anything that asks of you less than your authentic self and the way that God has designed you to be is a size too big or a size too small. The third thing I think is worth avoiding, and don't take this wrong, is celebrity status. I think one of the things we've seen more and more in the last few years with celebrities is celebrities who have identified themselves as having, significant struggles with mental health, and who are speaking up about abuse, and who are calling out big name brands for things like misogyny and abuse of power and poor standards of working and management that have left teen stars and young adult stars and even A-list celebrities broken and even suicidal in some cases. And I think one of the things we've failed to realize is that what we produce flows out of who we are, and it's not the other way around. And celebrities have the unfortunate burden of being what everyone else wants them to be, doing what everyone else thinks that they should, and managing the expectations of thousands of people that they truly don't even know in most cases to maintain a certain status. I, for one, am not against power or celebrity status. I believe it's something we can use well. But when our doing precedes our being and who we're becoming, and when our desire for achievement and the spotlight overrides our discipline around who we're becoming, our status will always get the best of us. And the lives we produce will be far beneath the quality that it should ever be. I think those are three of the things that we must learn to avoid. That is speed, social media suicide, and pursuing status and celebrity-esque, right, without becoming who we're meant to be. First, our becoming has to precede our doing, and we have to keep watch over what is being formed in us and who we're being formed into, and the influences that are shaping those two things. But I think the real keys to success, I believe, fall into three categories that I'll describe very briefly as I bring this to a close. I think the first real key to true success is hiddenness. And that's not something that is often shouted from mainstream media. That's not something we often see in a lot of books that talk about winning and talk about success. But the idea of hiddenness, I believe that there can be no fruitfulness without there first being a season of hiddenness. Every seed has to first be buried for a season and go through a process of growth that is for the most part unseen before we ever see a fruit. And so I tell people often, I don't trust the fruit of unprocessed people. And so my encouragement to a lot of people, and my encouragement to you, is to pursue hiddenness and be content in the moments when growth does not meet with celebration or awards and applause. And I know today for you is a day of celebration. It is a moment worth celebrating because you've gone through the process. You've done the work. You've gone through seasons of being unseen and being uncelebrated and allowed yourself to take root. And I think these are the moments where strong roots are being formed for lasting success. But don't forego your season of hiddenness because it produces your season of fruitfulness, and it always produces your season of fruitfulness. The second thing I think is worth pursuing, or the second key that I believe of true success is formation, because who you become informs what you will produce. A lot of people are so fixated on what can I produce, shopping around for ideas. What can I do now? What can I do next? What can I do 2 years from now? We're so focused on producing and producing and producing. But if your producing overrides your becoming, you will self-sabotage. So who you're becoming informs what you will produce. And so pay attention to who you're becoming, pay attention to what is being formed in you. And because growth happens over time. It comes from choosing to make the most out of the season you're in. It comes from accepting the invitation to participate in your life, to step into whatever is in front of you, and to have the resiliency to allow yourself to be shaped and sharpened by the season that you're in right now. I was speaking to one of my mentors earlier today, and I was telling him about, this event tonight, and telling him that, realistically, there are only about 3 or 4 major things we can truly accomplish and do well in a particular year. And everyone that is promoting, the 101 ways that they've won this year have sacrificed something that is important to them, or important in order to do that. They've sacrificed their health. They've sacrificed their marriages. They've sacrificed, their schoolwork. They've sacrificed their relationship. They've sacrificed something in order to be these super producers, right? But God created us with human limitations. He created us as limited beings, and I think sometimes when we try to exhaust those limitations is when we become sick, and when we become our own blunders to our own success, because what the monies that you're making in your program, which or through your program, or the monies that you were able to make through this program, what you should have been putting into production, you end up putting into recovery, because you have health needs now. You have health challenges or different challenges that are popping up because you allowed your producing to override your becoming. You dishonored the fact that you have you're operating within as a limited being, with limitations that God has designed you to work in, and you've not allowed yourself to come to the place where you've accepted that enough is enough sometimes, and sometimes you just have to say enough. And so I told them, one of the things that will greatly inform, my personal vision over the next year is not only what I will achieve, not only the goals that I will achieve, but the person that I want to become. Because we usually get to the end of the year and we ask ourselves, well, what did I accomplish? And while I think it's important to ask that, is an important question to ask, I wonder what it would mean if we go into 2022 and beyond thinking not just only what I will accomplish, but who am I becoming? And I told this story recently to someone, how the education system does something well. It teaches us how to perform. And even in our younger years as kids, our parents teach us how to perform for grades and for the things that we want. And they say, if you do well at this, or if you perform well at this, you'll get this. And if you get so many grades, you'll get awarded this. And so we've created this culture of performance. But what that does, and I think what happens is that a lot of us as adults don't outgrow that and don't realize that when we come, and for instance, into the faith, and when we come to God, who says salvation is a gift I'm giving you, and joy is a gift I'm giving you, and success is a gift I'm giving you, and these things are a gift I'm giving you. Unconsciously, what we tell God is, I haven't performed yet, so I can't accept these things. And we don't know how to accept these gifts from God because we're on this hamster wheel of performance, and we think performance is the way out, performance is the way to success, performance is the way for us to get to the means, to the end that we want. But God is saying to you, I delight in you. I delight in the way that I've made you. You are fearfully and wonderfully made. He is so invested in who you're becoming and who he has made you to be in the way that he's designed you. And he delights in you. And the concept of delight is such where delight says, I like who you are, even if you don't do another thing. I want to say that again. Delight says, I like who you are, even if you don't do another thing, even if you don't produce another thing, even if you don't achieve another thing. And so sometimes I think we get stuck on this wheel of performance and success and profits, and we try to get to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, but we don't pause to delight in who we're becoming and who God made us to be over the course of a year, over the course of a month, right? And so many things are happening in the world, and we have to learn how to slow down and see our lives through the lens of delight, and see our lives through the lens of God saying, this is enough, and you are enough, and this is good, right? And learn to put a full stop at the end of that page, put a full stop at the end of that book. Because I think one of the most dangerous things we can do is put a comma where God has put a full stop. And so I think the second key to success is about formation, who we are becoming. And then lastly, I think the last key to success, or the result of these two things is we get to enjoy a season of fruitfulness and a season of harvest and a season of celebration, which brings us to moments like tonight. My greatest admonition to people today echoes one of my favorite passages in Genesis. And I tell people this: be fruitful. You are a multiplier. And when you come through seasons of study and preparation and training and practice like you have through this program, and even in other ways and areas of your life, make room for harvest. Make room for the harvest of joy. Make room for the harvest of smiles. Make room for the harvest of peace. Make room for the harvest of profits. Make room for the harvest of relationships. Make room for the harvest of books written and published. Make room for the harvest of dreams realized, the harvest of good success. Because after seasons of training, and after seasons of preparation, and after seasons of hiddenness, come seasons of fruitfulness and seasons of success. And so I say to you today in closing, hold fast to a holy inspiration, because where your inspiration comes from matters. And use the skills that you have been blessed with. Honor the way that God has designed you, and multiply your impact in the world. Thank you, and it is a pleasure having had this time with you tonight. And I wish you every success, and God bless each of you.
I trust that you enjoyed that speech and took note of the things that Darron spoke about. The speech really touched me, and it gave me some things to take note of for 2022. And high on that list will be self-care and to watch my producing, so that I do not pay the consequence of overproducing by becoming sick and having more health scares like 2020 and 2021. So that's it for today's show. Thank you for listening. I trust that you enjoyed it. Take charge of your publishing. Go pen it to win it and dominate entrepreneurship. Ta for now. Until next time.
I'm Tamara Francis, educator and editor. Don't forget to rate, review, subscribe, and share the podcast with your network. If you'd like to increase your impact and income with books, visit authorpreneursecrets.com for more resources, including the books Pen It to Win It and Authorpreneur Secrets. Join the Authorpreneur Secrets Academy membership group for courses, coaching, and community support to write, publish, and win with books. Enrollment is in January and June each year. You may also sign up for one of Ruth's Publishing Made Easy courses or private coaching to write and publish your next book. Until next time, go pen it to win it.